to the Sweat in our draft themed show today. I'm Jesse Cofield. They're DraftKings contributors Garion, Thorne, and Reid, Fowler. And this is us breaking down picks 7 through 10 of the NFL draft. So we're going to kick off this segment with a debate. All right. At number 7, you guys both have the Lions taking a receiver from Alabama, but they are not the same guy. Garion, you have them selecting Jalen Waddle, while Reid, you have them taking Devonta Smith. Garion, why is your guy the guy?
I actually think Smith's the better receiver. I just kind of reading the tea leaves here. It seems like his stock is falling a little bit. People have I don't want to say obvious concerns because I don't really think it's a concern, but Devonta Smith is like the skinniest man in the history of the universe. And people are a little bit worried about that because he plays a position where you might have to go across the middle and get slammed by a strong safety. Look, I just think there's this sort of, it's the perfect storm for me because there's this thought process around Jalen Waddle, who you'll have to remember played through an injury in the national championship game. And there's this whole there were some guys who didn't even play in the 2020 season. Can we question their work ethic? Can we question their love of the game? You can't question that Jalen Waddle doesn't love football and isn't a tough guy. You know who loves tough guys who will take a bite out of the opponent or whatever the heck he was talking about during his press conference? Dan Campbell loves tough guys. And I just think that they need a wide receiver. I think some people think Waddle has a higher floor than Devonta Smith. And maybe that's the kind of guy the Lions need, is someone with a high floor who won't be a miss. But again, I do actually think Smith's the better player.
Reid, why is Smith your guy the guy?
Yeah, who says that Smith can't take a bite out of the kneecap crime, so to speak? Come on, right? There it is. A little scruff or gruff for all you 90s kids. Look, it's kind of weird, right? Like I look at both of these receivers kind of like Jalen or kind of like last year, like Henry Ruggs, right? Like we have some comps out of Alabama of these two receivers as well, right? It kind of feels the same way. And we kind of have this idea that it might serve like repetition. Hi, Thor, shout out. That like speed is always a need, right? Henry Ruggs is a need, right? Like that's just it. Jalen Waddle, though, he's not that much heavier, right, or bigger than Devonta Smith. He's 180 pounds per NFL.com. Like, who knows if that's even the case, right? We have no idea. But the thing about Jalen Waddle, what I do like about him is that it doesn't matter how big he is. He just screams past everybody, and he's such a good receiver. I just think if Smith is there, despite all the negative publicity about the guy, his route running is so crisp. And when you're small or when you're thin, if your route running is fast, if your route running is quick, you got 3 yard separation of the guy. Doesn't matter. Get down quickly. I don't care about that. An injury concern is for every wide receiver, every player in the NFL. I just think if you have a chance to get a guy like Smith, especially starting a new regime as your number 1 with TJ Hawkinson and with this young team, I think it's a great pick.
All right, you both agree on number 8. Panthers select offensive lineman out of Northwestern, Rashawn Slater. But Reid, with the news of Teddy Bridgewater being traded to the Broncos, does that change your mind about this pick?
No, I think it solidifies it. I think both from a business standpoint, like they want to make sure from the optics that it makes sense, right? That we just acquired Sam Darnold. Now let's protect him with Slater. And to what Garion was saying with Jeff in that last segment, Slater, there are some people that believe Slater is more versatile or just a better prospect than Sewell because he's so versatile, because he can play anywhere on the offensive line. And that's exactly what Carolina needs. They need so much help in the offensive line. What Slater does, he provides that versatility for them.
Garion, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance, obviously, that like maybe the front office is just enamored with Justin Fields or with Trey Lance, and they figure, hey, whatever, we'll bring in a second quarterback if it doesn't work out with Darnold. We've got this guy who's been waiting in the wings for a season. But at the same time, I do think when you're a franchise sort of in a transition period like the Panthers are, taking an offensive tackle and taking someone who could be your left tackle for the next 10 years is never a bad move. It's adding an element of stability to that offensive line that will help Darnold in 2021, which I think is important because, they gave up real assets for this guy. Yeah. And he probably deserves a fair shake, at least a couple games, to see what he can do in this offense with Matt Rule. But I think, too, that if you take the left tackle now and it doesn't work out with Darnold this season, you're probably going to have a pretty high draft pick next season. And now you've already got your left tackle to protect whatever quarterback you draft next year.
All right. At 9, you both have John Elway. Oh, What?
Sorry, Jesse. One more thing. I will say, like, the only way he potentially doesn't go there is if Carolina trades out of that spot, right? And like a Patriots or someone comes up to try and get their quarterback. It's the only way I think he's not there. But sorry, go ahead.
No, Reid, anytime. Okay, well, as I was saying, at 9, both of you guys had John Elway taking his QB of the future, Trey Lance. Now, Garion, with Bridgewater in the mix, do you still think they're in the hunt for Lance?
I have no idea. Like this is now such a mystery. I will say I don't think it takes them out of the running for a quarterback. I think they could definitely still take one. I don't think anyone sees Teddy Bridgewater as like a guy you pencil in to be your quarterback for the next 5 years. He's someone who's fine in the immediate future, but he's not a future quarterback. So if they're ready to just get rid of Drew Lock, and it's possible they are, they could still take someone like Trey Lance, who is, of the 4 quarterbacks, easily the most raw prospect we have, and probably the one who would benefit the most from sitting a season on the sideline and learning, although it's very rare we see anyone do that at this point in the NFL. But I think Lance is still very much in the cards. But hey, at this point, there's a chance the Broncos could even trade out of this spot. I mean, I do think they have enough glaring issues on this team elsewhere that they could find a player to take in this spot at 9 if they don't want it to be a quarterback. But Bridgewater does really throw a wrench in this whole thing.
Reid, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when you take a look at Lance, he's got the biggest gap and chasm between where he could potentially go, right? He could go as high up as number 3 or as low as number 15, in my opinion. I do think that his game fits probably the best with Denver because of that defense, because of the young offense, pass catchers that he has. And the thing to note, too, to what Garion was saying is, like, if he doesn't play right away, which he probably should, that'll be 2 years for someone like of his, lack of experience not playing competitive football. That's a lot of time to not be playing competitive football, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, who knows, right? I have no idea what's going to happen. I think New England could jump up, right? This is what I was talking about, that Carolina spot. They could jump up. If Fields or Lance are still there and they feel strongly about one of those guys, they could jump ahead of Denver. And then we could see a cascade where Denver says, you know what? We're not really that sold on Locke or Mac Jones. Let's move back, get some draft capital, and let's stock up on other positions of need. So, Lance is probably that biggest question mark if it's not a guy like Mac Jones for me.
All right, guys, really, really quick on this last one. You guys both have Patrick Surtain going to Dallas. That's the first defensive player to come off the board. You can bet on that at even money on the GK Sportsbook. So, Reid, how confident are you in this pick?
As confident as you can be in the NFL draft, Jesse, which is like 50.99999%. They need him. Dallas was terrible. Gave up 34 passing touchdowns last year, tied for 3rd worst in the NFL.
Garion, you feeling confident, or could it be someone else here?
There's been a lot of connection between this spot and this player, and it's hard to say I'm guaranteeing something at pick 10. There's so much that could happen in between, but this really does seem like a consensus right now. They need a cornerback. They've needed to replace Byron Jones. This is the guy to do it.